Hi, welcome to a new video by K-Steve Math. Here I'm going to talk about Algebra 1 and kind of introduce you to the idea of it. If you're about to start taking Algebra 1, then this is a good place to start and get some kind of information about what is it you're going to be learning, why is it called what it's called, and all that jazz. So here we go. So first, what is Algebra 1? Well, it has to do with a branch of mathematics called algebra that uses letters or symbols to represent either known or unknown quantities in equations and formulas. Now that may sound kind of weird. How can you why are we representing known and unknown quantities? But that's one of the beautiful things you're going to find out as you study algebra. So you've actually probably seen some algebra before now in math, but this is really where we start learning algebra principles and how letters and numbers can interact together, and what are the rules for this system of math that we have to abide by in order to make things work. So it's really cool. The other answer to that, specifically what is Algebra 1, is that Algebra 1 is the first of a series of courses that are going to teach you algebra skills. So there's kind of two paths these days, at least in the United States, for math classes in high school. One is kind of an Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry path, and that geometry could be in between them or it could be after them. And then the other one is to take what's called integrated math, or there might be some other fancy name that your school calls it, that tries to integrate algebra and geometry together. And so whichever path your school does, you're most likely going to learn the exact same things. I would be super surprised if your school is just like totally off the rails doing their own thing, because we have like standards and stuff that we have to teach too as teachers. So you may not be taking Algebra 1, you may be taking something like Integrated 1, but it's still going to have the same, really similar stuff to Algebra 1, but probably with more geometry and that sort of thing mixed in. So that's kind of a basis of what Algebra 1 is. Usually if you have an Algebra 1 at your school, you also have an Algebra 2. So that's going to continue your journey in taking and understanding algebra as you go along. When should you take Algebra 1? So most schools have something called pre-algebra that they have you take before Algebra 1, and it kind of depends on the school again. We can name courses whatever we want. It's nice when we all name them similar things because then it's easier if you move around to make sure you're in the right spot. It's been pretty well considered that Algebra 1 is a 9th grade course for most students. Like if you don't feel like you're super great at math, but that you're also not super bad at math, then it's considered like normal to take Algebra 1 as a 9th grader. And you typically take it before geometry and for sure before Algebra 2. If you're in Algebra 2 and you haven't taken Algebra 1, something weird happened. Now, there are cases where maybe you studied Algebra 1 on your own and you get test out of it, but that's not really the case that I'm referring to here. If you've taken pre-algebra or something like 7th grade or 8th grade math, then it's quite possible that you're ready for Algebra 1. And if you're not sure, like you're moving into a new school or something like that, or if you're at the beginning of school and you're like, wow, this math class I'm in feels too easy, I feel like I already know all of this, a lot of schools will have some sort of a test that you can take to help make sure that you've been put in the right math class. So definitely check with your counselor, get your parents to check with your counselor if that's the case. Same thing on the other side. If you get into a math class and it's way too hard, don't just sit there and try to live through it. Talk to your parents, talk to the counselor, and see what's going on. Maybe you're in the wrong math class, maybe you're in the right math class, but you need some help. All of those are options. So what are the topics covered in Algebra 1? I would say that it boils down to two main things and then whatever else the teacher can fit in. And those two main things are solving, graphing, and writing linear equations, and then solving, graphing, and writing quadratic equations. And then there are things that also come up pretty typically, like functions and how to work with functions, polynomials. That's a fun word that you may not know yet, that you'll learn this year in Algebra 1. and just, like I said, anything else that can be fit in, or anything that's even loosely related to these two things might end up being in your Algebra 1 class. And it's quite possible that before you start Algebra 1, you're like, I know some of those words, but none of it makes sense the way you've written them. And that's pretty typical. Like, I used to get frustrated at math syllabuses or syllabi for classes in my bachelor degree, because it's like, why are you listing all the things that we're going to learn? I don't know what any of this means. Whereas if you were to look at that syllabus at the end of the course, you should be able to be like, oh yeah, we did learn all of that, didn't we? So trust me, this is what you're going to learn. You're going to learn all about linear equations, which is another way of saying lines, and then you're going to learn all about quadratic equations, which there's so much fun stuff with both of those, so many real-world applications with both of those, so get excited because this is going to be fun. So are you ready to get started? And if you're here on YouTube or on my website about to learn Algebra 1, then I'm going to assume that you are planning to do some learning from a video. So I've got some tips here for you for how to learn from a video. And really it boils down to, you actually want to treat it a lot like how you would learn in class, but keep in mind you get to do this as comfortably as possible. So the things that are frustrating when you're in class, like having to go to the bathroom and not being able to, or uncomfortable desks or things like that, you have control over that when you're at home watching a video, so that's great. But you still want to grab some paper and a pencil so that you can write things down. You want to find a quiet place to watch where you can concentrate, so don't try to watch a math video or learn from a video while you're watching TV. That's a terrible idea. Don't try to watch where there's just a lot going on in your house. At the same time, if you're the type of person who does better if there's noise around, then obviously take that into account. This is you getting to figure out how you learn best. As you're watching the video, make sure you follow along. If you end up spacing out or something, rewind the video so that you catch what you missed. That's the beauty of a video, because you can't pause and rewind your teacher, or at least not as easily as you can with a video. Along with that, if the teacher that you're watching, if you feel like they're talking too slow, you can actually speed most videos up using the little gear icon on YouTube. Or if they're talking too fast, you can slow them down. And again, using pause and rewind and things like that to help when you do miss something either way. Write down examples. For math, that's the most important thing to write down. That's the thing that you want to be able to look at again as you're practicing by yourself or as you're studying for a test. You want to be able to see, what does the problem look like? What does it look like to do the problem? What is the right answer? And that way, as you're studying, you have a good model to look at. So you want to be able to practice each skill. Let's say you watch a video on solving equations and you're like, all right, I'm good, that's it, go take the test. That might work for you, but it's more than likely not going to work out for you. So you want to take some time, maybe you don't want to. You should take the time to practice each skill that you learn so that you get better at it. I already said this, pause and rewind when necessary. Definitely a good idea to pause and rewind. And also sometimes just keep watching, because you may be confused about something and it may be that the person's about to say or explain that in just a little bit. I know that I've had that happen a lot whenever I've helped students who are watching videos be like, yeah, I'm about to actually explain that on the video. I mean, I'm happy to explain it now as well, but about to explain it. And then comment if you are confused, or you could get a parent or sibling to come look at the video with you and say, hey, can you figure out why they did this? Maybe that parent or sibling would be able to help at least with that part. Even if they're not very good at math themselves, they might be able to give you some insight. Or you can comment. That's what's great about videos. You can comment, and if the person whose YouTube video it is paying attention, then they can get back to you and hopefully answer your question. So those are just some tips for learning from a video. I hope you are excited. Hope you're excited about starting Algebra 1. It's one of the courses that I've taught most recently and taught quite a bit, and I like it a lot, and so I'm going to be posting some videos and some resources on my website, kstevemath.com. Definitely check that out. Definitely subscribe to my channel so that you can also find the content super easily, and just get ready for a fun year of math. Thanks.